day 2 of my Idaho adventure, and I'm heading out solo for the rest of the week. I spent yesterday on the trail with a crew of friends who were on their own week-long expedition. We made some interesting stops, planned and unplanned. I'll put a link to part 1 in the description below if you haven't already watched that. The weather hasn't been exactly cooperative so far, and rather than make my way up into the mountains as originally planned, I'm going to see what else I can find down here in the desert. And yes, even though this ecosystem is technically considered sagebrush steppe, everyone around here calls it high desert, so that's how you'll hear me refer to it. Last night, we camped amidst a surreal scenery of geological oddity, and as the sun finally emerges a bit, I've made my way to a different area of rock formations to check out. But I was not expecting this.
Well, that is a big rock wall, and it looks to be pretty old based on the fact that there is sagebrush growing on top of it. I'm not sure if that was some sort of dam or if perhaps it was a way to corral animals. I will look into it and insert it into the video right here.
I was surprised to find no definitive history of this structure other than references to an old dam. Even scouring a multi-page BLM report about this area, this rock wall isn't mentioned once. In any case, this isn't what I came here to see. I'm more interested in what lies beyond. Now, this is as far as I can drive, but it's possible to hike much further into this odd little canyon populated by towering hoodoos of all shapes.
I know sometimes it's hard to get a sense of scale when you see the shots of these hoodoos, but here is, for an example, this is one of the taller ones out here, but nearly all of these are well taller than me. 1 to 2 stories tall, maybe I would say, some of them more. It's really cool.
Holes, arches, and shallow caves, formed by millennia of erosion, are in abundant supply, and there are endless opportunities to explore passages through these Idaho rocks. I've made an impromptu detour towards a reservoir that appears to be a recreation area, and I'm thinking this road should be well graveled all the way. More on that in a bit. When I was a kid, it seemed like we used to drive across dams regularly, but these days I find them gated off more often than not. So it's fun to have found this side road traversing the dam. below me, a family is braving the rain. Further along, I found a very nice free campground overlooking the lake. There are only 2 other occupants at the moment. It's mid-afternoon and I'm not going to camp here, but this is a great spot to settle for my quick daily nap. The weather has just been so uncooperative today. There was a couple other little roads I tried to take earlier today, going to some more sort of geological points of interest. But with it being raining all day, I got into some mud. I was driving down a dirt road that wouldn't even call it off camber. It was just very slightly slanted. And as I was driving straight, the truck was just sliding sideways down towards the ditch on the other side of the road. And so I had to abandon that. There was another one I tried to take and it was just too muddy. It was raining. I just didn't feel like setting up cameras in the rain. So I decided to move on to another area that hopefully will be a little bit more rocky, and it was time for a nap. And so this is cute up here. I don't normally get super excited about man-made reservoirs. A lot of times they're definitely lacking the charm of a natural lake, but with these rugged mountains up in the background, it's nice, and there's like nobody up here. I imagine on a hot Sunday this probably gets pretty busy up here, but nice little spot. I guess we'll move on. The one nice thing about this wet weather is that I'm not dealing with dust. Hopefully I can stay on graveled or rocky roads for the rest of the day and avoid any more mud.
So when I was scouting this trip, in satellite imagery, I could see this road going out through a lava flow. Now, from the satellite imagery, it really looked very distinct. You could see the lava very distinctly different from the rest of the ground around. It wasn't clear that there was quite so much sagebrush grown up on the lava here. At eye level, it's much less striking. There's a few patches here and there I've seen of like fresher lava that hasn't had so much plant growth come up on it. I thought this might be a little more visually striking, but oh well.
It's really a pretty dramatic scenery out here. This rough, fresh lava, and way off in the background, these mountains. I can't quite tell how high they go. It's too bad they're stuck in the clouds like that. That would be quite a scene if we could see all of those mountains up there.
The only thing that really catches my eye out here is this, whatever this is. Let's try and take a closer look at that. It's quite wet out here, but this road has a solid layer of gravel, and I'm not doing too much sliding around. Soon I have to veer off onto this little 2-track, but fortunately this trail feels pretty grippy. I've managed to find my way out to this rock formation, and YouTube's compression is probably mushing up this footage, so I'm not sure if you can see how much rain is coming down.
Well, that little side spur that I found dead-ended out here by that rock formation, and actually kind of at an elevated spot with a view out over the lava flow / sagebrush desert. Wouldn't have been a terrible place to camp, but I sort of had to work my way south to get out here. And the further south I got, the further I got up underneath that foreboding gray cloud. It was definitely not as bad to the north, and it looked like there were some places that I could possibly get up and find camp. So I'm gonna head back up sort of in that direction. I normally might have gone and scrambled up that little rock formation, kind of interesting looking, but as the storm is sort of moving over me here, I've got thunder and lightning going off. It's still a little bit in the distance, but we're definitely the high point out here, I think, right now. So I didn't feel like I wanted to be up there on that. I suspect I'm gonna get rained on tonight no matter what, but maybe if we can at least not be so deep underneath that big, heavy, gray. So yeah, I did manage to drive up out of the rain. It's not raining here now. And I might just see if I can find some place to camp out in this area for tonight. I was gonna try and get up into the mountains today, but because the weather is just so uncooperative and the clouds are so low, I don't think there's really any point. So I'm just gonna poke around here a little bit and see what I find. Well, once I got down off that second arm of the lava flow, sort of back out into sagebrush desert, the spot that it looked on the map looked like I could find a campsite. The road was just definitely not going to be passable. And the further away I got, the less and less gravel there was on the road, and I was just in this mud. And every 200-300 yards, the truck just suddenly starts sliding sideways. It's crazy, and it'll just bog down. And finally I decided to just turn around and set up a camera so you can see just how mucky this road is, even though it's got gravel on it. And I did not expect that to go quite as sideways as it did. And then I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to stop when I was halfway in that ditch. As long as I had forward movement, I just kept churning. So sorry for your road, Idaho. Put a little more gravel down on this dirt. Well, much of today definitely did not go as expected. Already this whole day was a derivation from what I originally planned because the weather in the mountains was looking bad. So I sort of improvised, and it was good. It was cool to go see those rock formations today. I did hope to pay a quick visit to that sort of lava field area. I didn't expect that to get so extensive, but I did think that I would find some places to camp in there. There was a number of spots that looked promising, both in satellite imagery and on the maps. They looked like little dead-end spurs that went to little spots that were tucked in. So ultimately, I backed completely out of there, got back on the highway. I had noticed that there was quite a bit of BLM land along the highway, and I could see that there were some little roads, so I figured certainly I'll find something. I poked up road after road after road off the highway. There was always something. There was some private land in the way, or the roads were just like servicing private land, and they would like not actually go to the BLM land. Finally, I found this little narrow little road coming off the highway. It's a BLM road, very narrow, just like nothing, no wide spots, no nothing. And I was really ready to take anything. Finally, there was an old road going up off of that little road, and it just peters out up in the shrubs there. But it was just a little bit enough of an opening and almost but not quite flat. And that's going to be camp for tonight. So sometimes you get great campsites and sometimes it's just okay. This spot is actually beautiful. There's these mountains up behind here and some old lava out across there. The highway is probably, I don't know, a quarter mile at most as the crow flies in that direction. I can't see the highway, they can't see me. I really thought today I was going to get into camp, you know, mid-afternoon. I was going to get everything set up the awning, set up the table, do, you know, a nice proper camp. And the day just obviously went much longer than I expected. It is now, I don't know, it's going on 8 o'clock. I got up at 6 this morning. I'm exhausted. I am once again not gonna cook. I might throw together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and just hole up because it is cold out here and I am gonna call it a night. Well, it rained on me so much yesterday and the roads were so mucky. And then in camp last night, it was raining in the evening. And then all night long, the wind was just blowing and gusting and blowing and gusting. During the night, I was hoping that, well, maybe at least that wind is pushing the clouds away, but there are still clouds. However, so much blue sky. Still some fog bank over along there. But this is looking so much more promising.
With last night's clouds cleared out, this is the first I've been able to fully see these hills up behind me here. I've just been wandering around trying to let the camper air out a bit this morning, and something shiny caught my eye. Just randomly, nowhere near the road, nor any visible remnants of power poles, there's an old glass electrical insulator. A little research back home suggests this is a Pyrex insulator, which was made by the Corning Glass Company from the 1920s to the 1940s. So weird it's just out here in this field, but it must be part of the history of this place, and at nearly 100 years old, it definitely has artifact status, so it needs to remain here. Well, the fog has managed to roll back in, and it's time for me to roll out for the next leg of my adventure. Thanks for sticking with me on this one. It perhaps wasn't the most gripping episode or the most jaw-dropping scenery, but that's the way it goes sometimes when you're out exploring places you've never been. The best is yet to come in this series, so make sure you're subscribed, and thank you for watching.